The first time humans met the Valorans, President Kim stood with his mouth slightly agape. The beings before him, tall, with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions, bowed deeply. Their skin rippled from a calm blue to a warm golden hue, indicating their peaceful intentions. "We come seeking friendship," said Elder Ta, the Valoran representative. His voice was melodic, almost like a gentle song. "Our people have watched yours for decades. Your resilience inspires us." The meeting took place in a secure facility beneath the United Nations headquarters in New York. Only 20 humans witnessed this historic moment, the first contact between humanity and an alien civilization. President Kim had prepared for many scenarios, but the gentle grace of the Valorans surprised him. "We welcome you to Earth," President Kim said, returning the bow. "And we look forward to learning from each other." Elder Ta smiled, his skin shifting to a bright, sunny yellow. "We bring gifts of knowledge and hope for a lasting alliance." Within weeks, scientists from both species worked together. The Valorans proved remarkably adaptable to Earth's environment, needing only minor adjustments to breathe our air comfortably. They established their first embassy in Seoul, with others quickly following in other major cities around the world. Within 3 months, the Earth-Valoran alliance was formalized in a ceremony watched by billions. The Valorans shared their advanced medical technology that could regrow lost limbs and cure diseases humans had battled for centuries. Their renewable energy systems pulled power directly from quantum fluctuations, ending humanity's dependence on fossil fuels almost overnight. In return, humans offered their military expertise and agricultural methods. The Valorans, despite their incredible technology, had evolved as a pacifist species. They built no weapons and maintained no armies, making them vulnerable in the greater galactic community. "Our people chose peace thousands of years ago," Elder Tad explained to President Kim during a private dinner. "It has served us well, but left us defenseless against more aggressive species." President Kim nodded thoughtfully. "On Earth, we've learned that peace must sometimes be protected." The Valorans helped humans improve their space travel capabilities. With Valoran help, humans established their first Mars colony in just 18 months, a project that would have taken decades otherwise. Their ships traveled the solar system with ease, and plans began for exploration beyond. Admiral Park, head of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Force, received the first warning about the Galactic Council during a routine communication with a Valoran science vessel. The message came from Elder Ta himself, his skin a worried purple. "We've detected Council scout ships at the edge of your solar system," Elder Ta said, his voice tense. "This is concerning." "The Council?" Admiral Park asked. "You've mentioned them before, but never in detail." Elder Ta's skin darkened. "The Galactic Council controls most of this sector of the galaxy. They consider independent alliances threatening. They prefer to absorb civilizations individually." "Are they dangerous?" Admiral Park's military mind immediately assessed the potential threat. "They are powerful," Elder Ta replied, "and they do not tolerate what they cannot control." In the following weeks, both humans and Valorans prepared. The Valorans shared their knowledge of Council tactics and technology, while humans began adapting their military strategies. Earth's factories shifted production to build ships based on Valoran designs, but armed with human weapons systems. 6 months after first contact, the Council sent its first official communication. They demanded a meeting with representatives from both Earth and Valerin Prime. "We must comply," Elder Ta advised during an emergency session with Earth's leadership. To refuse would provoke them. Earth selected Diplomat Lee, a calm and experienced negotiator, to lead their delegation. 5 other humans accompanied her, along with 3 Valorans including Elder Ta. Their journey to the Council station took 2 weeks aboard a Valoran ship. When they arrived, Diplomat Lee was struck by the massive scale of the Council headquarters, a space station larger than Earth's moon, housing representatives from hundreds of worlds. But despite its impressive size, the station felt cold and sterile. The Council representatives, a mix of 6 different alien species, met them with thinly veiled hostility. "Your partnership violates established protocols for emerging species," High Counselor Drav stated coldly. He was tall and gaunt, with gray skin and 4 eyes that blinked independently of each other. Earth should have been assessed individually before any alliance was permitted. "We were unaware of such protocols," Diplomat Lee replied calmly. "The Valorans approached us peacefully, and we responded in kind. We see no reason why sovereign worlds cannot form alliances of their choosing." High Counselor Drav's 4 eyes narrowed. "The Council maintains order in this sector. Without our oversight, chaos would reign." For 3 days, the meetings continued. Each session grew increasingly tense. The Council presented demands that would effectively end the alliance and place both Earth and Valoran under direct Council oversight. "This is not a negotiation," Counselor Mez, a reptilian being, hissed during the final session. "This is a courtesy. You will comply, or there will be consequences." Diplomat Lee stood firm. "Earth does not respond well to threats. We wish peaceful relations with the Council, but we will not surrender our sovereignty." The Earth Valoran delegation departed the next morning. During their journey home, Elder Te's skin remained a worried gray. "They will not accept our refusal easily," he told Diplomat Lee. "Then we will be ready," she replied, though uncertainty gnawed at her. Upon their return to Earth, Diplomat Lee delivered her report to a joint session of world leaders. "The Council presents a significant threat," she concluded. "They view our alliance as a challenge to their authority." President Kim ordered increased production of defensive systems. The Valorans shared more of their technology, helping humans prepare for possible conflict. 3 days later, the attack came without warning. Council warships materialized above Valerin Prime, hundreds of them appearing simultaneously from faster-than-light travel. Before any defense could be mounted, they unleashed antimatter weapons. The peaceful planet's surface boiled under the assault. Cities vaporized, forests burned, oceans turned to steam. 8 billion Valorans perished in hours. On Earth, humans watched in horror as the transmissions from Valerin Prime suddenly stopped. The few Valoran ships that escaped brought footage of the devastation. Elder Ta, who had been visiting Earth during the attack, collapsed when he saw the images, his skin turning a deep black of mourning. The Council sent a brief message to Earth afterward. "The species known as Valorans has been subject to necessary containment action due to their violation of Council directives. Earth is advised to sever all remaining connections to Valoran technologies and prepare for Council integration assessment." President Kim's response was brief. Earth does not forget its friends. The images from Valoran Prime played on screens worldwide. The beautiful crystalline cities, once shining like jewels under their sun, now reduced to smoking ash. Billions of peaceful beings slaughtered in hours. No one could look away, yet no one could bear to watch. In homes, offices, and public squares across Earth, humans gathered around screens in silent horror. They saw recordings from the few Valoran ships that escaped, footage of antimatter weapons striking peaceful cities, of families trying to flee, of an entire civilization being erased. Elder Ta sat alone in a dark room at the Valoran embassy in Seoul. His skin had turned a deep black of mourning, with occasional flashes of red pain pulsing across his body. He had lost his family, his friends, his world. Of the 8 billion Valorans who had lived on their homeworld, only about 20,000 had survived, those who had been off-planet during the attack. "I failed them," he whispered to President Kim, who had come personally to offer condolences. "I should have known the Council would respond this way." President Kim placed a hand on the alien's shoulder. "No, old friend. We failed you. We underestimated the threat. But I promise you this, Earth will not abandon the survivors of Valoran." That evening, President Kim addressed a stunned planet. "Today, we have witnessed an act of unspeakable evil. The peaceful Valorans, who came to us in friendship, have been nearly exterminated by the Galactic Council. This was not war. This was genocide. His voice hardened. Earth stands with our Valoran friends. We will shelter the survivors. We will remember those lost. And we will ensure that justice is done. For the first time in human history, Earth responded with complete unity. Old enemies put aside their differences. Resources were pooled. Military forces combined. 3 days after the attack, the United Nations called an emergency session. Every nation sent their highest representatives. The General Assembly Hall was filled to capacity, with an unprecedented 100% attendance. Ambassador Song stood before representatives of every nation. Her face showed the strain of sleepless nights, but her posture remained straight and dignified. "We have witnessed genocide," she said, her voice steady despite tears streaming down her face. "If we do not act, we condone it. If we do not respond, we invite the same fate for ourselves." She gestured to where Elder Ta and the few surviving Valoran leaders sat in the gallery. Our friends came to us in peace. They shared their knowledge freely. They asked only for friendship in return. And for this, they were almost wiped from existence. Ambassador Song paused, looking at each delegation one by one. "The question before us is simple. Will Earth stand by while peaceful civilizations are slaughtered? Or will we become the defenders that this galaxy clearly needs?" The debate was brief. Nation after nation voiced support for immediate action. Even countries with long histories of conflict agreed without reservation. When the vote came, it was unanimous. Earth would go to war against the Galactic Council. Within hours, the newly formed Earth Defense Council convened in an underground facility beneath Geneva. Military leaders from every major power gathered around a table where holographic displays showed the known galaxy. Admiral Choi, who had commanded multinational forces in 3 regional conflicts, took command of Earth's newly formed United Defense Force. At 62, his hair had turned fully gray, but his mind remained sharp and his body fit. He'd served in 3 wars but had never imagined fighting aliens. "I won't lie to you," he told the assembled officers. "We are outmatched in numbers, territory, and experience. The Council controls thousands of worlds. Their fleets outnumber ours by factors we cannot calculate. By conventional military thinking, this war is unwinnable." A heavy silence fell across the room. However, Admiral Choi continued with a slight smile. "We have 2 advantages they do not expect. We have Valoran technology and human determination. They have underestimated both." Earth's industrial capacity converted to military production with remarkable speed. Factories that once built cars now produced spacecraft components. Research facilities focused entirely on weapons development. Shipyards constructed in orbit worked around the clock, building vessels based on Valoran designs, but enhanced with human military innovations. The remaining Valoran scientists worked alongside human engineers. Though devastated by grief, they found purpose in the work. They integrated their advanced propulsion and shield technology with humanity's weapon systems, creating hybrid ships unlike anything seen in the galaxy before. "Your species has a unique approach to conflict," said Valoran engineer Jin to his human counterpart. "Where we sought to avoid it entirely, you have spent millennia perfecting it. Perhaps this is why we were chosen for extinction, and you were not." "We haven't survived yet," the human engineer replied, "but we're damned well going to try." Across Earth, training facilities prepared soldiers and pilots for space combat. Simulations ran constantly, using what little they knew of Council tactics. The first fleet of Earth defense ships took shape in orbit, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Elder Ta, still in morning black, addressed the first graduating class of space combat pilots. "My people chose peace thousands of years ago. We believed the universe would return our kindness. We were wrong." His skin flickered briefly with red anger. "Do not make our mistake. When facing evil, only strength will prevail." 45 days after the massacre, the first Earth ships completed their trials. They were smaller than Council vessels, but faster and more maneuverable. Their weapons systems, combining Valoran energy technology with human missile designs, showed promising results in tests. 50 days after the massacre, long-range sensors detected Council scout ships approaching the solar system. Admiral Choi ordered them to be left alone. "Let them look," he said. "Let them think we're cowering in fear." 58 days after the massacre, Admiral Choi and Elder Ta stood on the bridge of the flagship Terra. Around them, a fleet of 100 Earth vessels prepared for their first mission. "Are you certain of this course?" Elder Ta asked, his skin showing flickers of worried purple. "Your planet risks the same fate as mine." Admiral Choi nodded solemnly. "Some principles are worth any risk, old friend. Some lines must be defended, no matter the cost." 60 days after the massacre, with Earth's first fleet ready and more ships nearing completion each day, Admiral Choi broadcast a message on all frequencies the Council used. His weathered face appeared on Council communication systems across thousands of worlds. "To the leadership of the entity known as the Galactic Council," he began, his voice calm but resolute. "I am Admiral Choi of Earth's United Defense Force. You murdered our friends believing we would cower. You mistook our patience for weakness. You will not survive this error." His eyes narrowed slightly. 8 billion Valorans cry out for justice. Earth has heard them. We are coming. With that declaration, Earth's first fleet activated their enhanced FTL drives and vanished from the solar system, heading toward Council space. The war had begun. The first human strike targeted a minor Council outpost near Alpha Centauri. The outpost floated in space like a metal flower, its petals housing sensors that monitored traffic through the sector. It was considered so safe that it had only minimal defenses. After all, no emerging species could reach it, and established races knew better than to challenge the Council directly. Commander Han studied the station through the viewscreen of her lead ship, the Defiant. She was 34, with short black hair and eyes that rarely blinked during operations. Before this mission, she had commanded special forces in Earth's Pacific conflict. Now she led 3 ships, small, fast vessels using modified Valoran stealth technology. "Status report," she said quietly. "Stealth systems holding," her second officer responded. "They have no idea we're here." Han nodded and looked at the 20 Marines preparing in the launch bay via the internal camera feed. They wore newly designed space combat armor, another hybrid of Valoran and human technology. The suits were lightweight but stronger than traditional armor, with built-in propulsion systems for zero-gravity movement. "Remember your training," Han told them through the comm system. "Minimum casualties. We need their data more than we need body counts." The Marine captain nodded. "Understood, Commander." Han turned to her pilot. "Take us in." Silent approach. The 3 Earth vessels glided toward the station like shadows. Their hulls, coated with Valoran light-absorbing material, showed up on no scanners. Inside the Council outpost, alien technicians monitored their equipment with the casual boredom of those who expect nothing unusual to happen. The Earth ships eased alongside the station's docking ports. With precision movements, they matched the airlocks perfectly. Marine teams readied themselves at the connection points. "Execute," Han ordered. The Marines moved with practiced efficiency. Breaking through the airlock security took seconds using Valoran electronic countermeasures. The first teams entered the station before any alarm could sound. Inside, the aliens, a mix of 3 different Council races, reacted with confusion as armed humans appeared in their midst. Some reached for weapons, but most froze in shock. The humans moved methodically through the corridors, securing each section with minimal force. Commander Han followed the third wave in, moving directly toward the command center. When she arrived, her Marines had already secured the room. 5 alien officers sat with their hands bound, looking at the humans with expressions that ranged from fear to disbelief. "Impossible," the station commander gasped as Han entered. He was a tall, slender being with mottled green skin and 4 arms. Your species doesn't have interstellar capability. Han looked at him calmly. We didn't, she replied. We do now. The operation took less than 20 minutes. No council personnel died, though several suffered minor injuries. The humans downloaded the station's complete database, star charts, communication protocols, fleet positions, and security codes. Before leaving, Han gathered the station personnel in the main hall. Your communications will be restored in 1 hour, she informed them. You will tell your superiors exactly what happened here. Tell them Earth remembers Valerin Prime. The 3 ships departed as quietly as they had arrived, leaving the stunned council personnel to wonder how a supposedly primitive species had bypassed their defenses so easily. News spread through council space with alarming speed. Reports reached the Central Worlds within days. Humans, primitive humans from that unremarkable blue planet, had somehow developed military capabilities that shouldn't have been possible for centuries. High Counselor Drav called an emergency session. This is a troubling development, he stated to the assembled council members. The Earth creatures were supposed to be contained to their own system for at least another century. Clearly, the Valoran influence accelerated their development, Counselor Mez hissed. This validates our decision to eliminate the Valorans. Yet now we face a new problem, another counselor pointed out. These humans have shown they can strike our facilities with impunity. High Counselor Drav's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Deploy the 7th Fleet to secure all outposts in that sector, and send the 3rd Fleet to finish what remains of the Valoran colonies. We cannot allow any further collaboration between these species. The Council's 7th Fleet, 50 warships of various sizes, spread throughout the sector, reinforcing outposts and establishing patrol patterns. The 3rd Fleet, smaller but more heavily armed, set course for the Valoran colony world of Theris, where the few thousand Valorans who had lived off-world had gathered after the destruction of their homeworld. When the 3rd Fleet arrived at Theris, expecting an easy victory against a defenseless target, they found something unexpected. Earth vessels already orbited the planet, their unusual configuration unlike anything in Council records. Captain Yoon commanded the Earth Defense Force at Theris. She had been a submarine commander before joining the United Defense Force. At 45, she had spent more time operating in 3-dimensional combat environments than almost anyone else in Earth's military. Council fleet approaching, her sensor officer reported. 15 warships. Yoon studied the tactical display. Her force consisted of only 7 ships, too few for a conventional battle. Deploy according to pattern Hydra, she ordered. Prepare swarm drones. The Earth vessels moved into an unusual formation that confused the Council targeting systems, rather than grouping together for mutual protection. The standard tactic used by most galactic civilizations, they spread out in seemingly random positions. Meanwhile, each ship released dozens of small, automated drones that raced toward the Council fleet. On the Lid Council vessel, the commander watched with confusion. What are they doing? This formation makes no sense. The small objects are approaching rapidly, his second reported. They appear to be unmanned. Destroy them, the commander ordered. The Council ships fired their energy weapons at the incoming drones. Many were destroyed, but for each one eliminated, 3 more seemed to appear. The drones weren't attacking. They were creating a complex electronic interference pattern that disrupted the Council ship's communications and sensors. Captain Yoon employed guerrilla tactics that bewildered the numerically superior Council forces. Her ships struck from multiple angles, firing their weapons and then quickly changing position. They targeted propulsion and weapons systems rather than attempting to destroy the larger Council vessels outright. They're not fighting according to any established doctrine, the Council commander reported to headquarters before his signal was lost in the electronic chaos. They're unpredictable, adaptable, dangerous. 3 hours into the battle, the Council fleet was in disarray. 4 ships had been disabled, their propulsion systems destroyed. The others struggled to coordinate through the electronic interference. Meanwhile, not a single Earth vessel had been seriously damaged. Captain Yoon opened a channel to the Council fleet. "Your mission has failed. Withdraw now, or we will be forced to destroy your vessels rather than simply disabling them." The Council commander, watching his fleet fall apart under tactics he couldn't counter, ordered a retreat. The remaining functional ships gathered their disabled comrades and limped away from Theris. At Council headquarters, the Strategic Command gathered to review the disturbing reports. The recordings from both engagements played on large screens around the chamber. High-ranking military officers from various Council species watched in growing concern. "They don't fight like any species we've encountered," said Fleet Admiral Koth. "They don't follow standard formations or established rules of engagement. Their technology shouldn't be possible," added a senior science advisor. "They've combined Valoran theoretical systems with practical applications we never considered. It's as if they think differently about warfare itself." High Counselor Drav looked at the assembled military leadership. How did they defeat a force twice their size at Theris? Unconventional tactics. Fleet Admiral Koth admitted reluctantly. They fight asymmetrically. They target weaknesses rather than engaging in direct force confrontation. This is unexpected. As more reports came in from other sectors, small, lightning-fast human strikes against Council facilities, followed by quick retreats, the Strategic Command faced an uncomfortable realization. They had awakened something they didn't understand. "Perhaps," suggested an older counselor quietly, "the destruction of Valerin Prime was a miscalculation." High Counselor Drav's 4 eyes narrowed. "Nonsense. They are merely an emerging species with borrowed technology. Deploy the main fleets. Crush this rebellion before it spreads." But in the privacy of his quarters later that night, Drav reviewed the battle footage again. Something about the human fighting style disturbed him deeply. The Council had conquered hundreds of species over thousands of years, but none had adapted so quickly or fought so creatively. He wondered for the first time if the Council had made a terrible mistake. As Earth forces pushed deeper into Council space, something unexpected began to happen. On worlds long ruled by Council authority, suppressed species watched the human victories with growing hope. The first to reach out were the Nithrai, a race of beings with crystalline bodies who had been conquered 3 centuries earlier and forced to mine resources for the Council. "We have followed your battles," said Nithrai leader Kel, speaking to Admiral Choi via secure transmission. "You fight in ways the Council cannot predict. We wish to join you." Within weeks, the Desovians also made contact. With their ability to see across vast distances, they offered invaluable intelligence on Council fleet movements. Then came the Jorax, the Mithrar, the Quellians, and 2 other races, each bringing their own unique abilities and burning desire for freedom. Elder Ta, one of the few surviving Valoran leaders, smiled for the first time since the destruction of his homeworld. The Council's greatest fear is coming true. They sought to prevent alliances, and now they face the largest coalition this sector has ever seen. Admiral Choi nodded thoughtfully. Every empire in human history eventually fell when they stretched too far and treated their subjects too harshly. The Council is no different. The expanding alliance changed the nature of the war. Earth ships now received repairs at hidden Nithrai outposts. Desovian observers warned of incoming Council forces. Quellian engineers helped modify Earth weapons to be more effective against Council shields. 6 months into the conflict, High Counselor Drav faced growing criticism from other Council members. This was supposed to be a simple containment action. Counselor Mez hissed during a heated session. "Now we fight on 12 fronts against races that should never have united. The humans are the key," Drav insisted, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in agitation. "Destroy them, and this coalition crumbles." The Council mobilized its greatest fighting force, the 7th Armada, consisting of 300 warships, and sent them to crush the human fleet once and for all. Intelligence suggested the main Earth fleet was gathering near Proxima Centauri. Admiral Kang prepared for the coming battle with calm focus. At 58, he had studied military history his entire life. His office walls displayed images of ancient battles from Sun Tzu to Normandy. Now he commanded Earth's first fleet, 100 ships strong, against the approaching Council armée. "They outnumber us 3-1, his executive officer pointed out during the final briefing. Kang smiled slightly. Numbers are only one factor in warfare, and rarely the deciding one. He gestured to the tactical display, showing the Proxima Centauri system. What matters more is how those numbers are used. When the Council's 7th Armada arrived, they found the human fleet waiting in standard defensive formation. The Council Admiral, seeing the smaller force arranged conventionally, felt confident. This would be a straightforward victory, overwhelming force against an inferior enemy. "Begin the attack," he ordered. Standard penetration pattern. The Council ships advanced in tight, disciplined groups, a formation that had won countless battles across the galaxy. Their forward batteries charge, preparing to unleash devastating firepower. Then, just as they came into range, the human fleet did something unexpected. Instead of maintaining their defensive posture, they suddenly split apart in all directions. What had been one fleet became dozens of small, independent units, each moving in patterns no Council strategist had ever encountered. Admiral Kang's forces moved like water around rocks, flowing into gaps in the Council formation, striking vulnerable points, then regrouping elsewhere. Each squadron functioned independently yet coordinated perfectly with the others. The Council Admiral tried to adjust. "Focus fire on Sector 7, he commanded, but by the time his ships reoriented, the human vessels had already moved elsewhere. "They're everywhere and nowhere," the Council Admiral reported to headquarters, frustration evident in his voice. "Their movements make no logical." His transmission ended abruptly as his flagship erupted in flames, struck by a precisely targeted attack that bypassed its main shields. The battle lasted just over 4 hours. When it ended, the mighty 7th Armada was in ruins. 87 of their ships had been destroyed outright. Another 132 were disabled, drifting powerlessly in space. The remaining vessels retreated in disarray. The human fleet had lost just 17 ships. News of the crushing defeat spread rapidly across Council space. For the first time in thousands of years, the Council had lost a major battle. On countless Council worlds, citizens began questioning their leadership. Human psychological warfare proved devastatingly effective. Using communication codes taken from captured Council ships, Earth forces broadcast evidence of Council atrocities across all channels. Citizens saw footage of the destruction of Valerin Prime. They heard testimonies from liberated worlds describing centuries of oppression. On the Council homeworld of Zentrix, protests erupted in major cities. "We were told the Council brings order and peace," shouted one protester to a gathering crowd. "But they bring only destruction to those who question them." High Councilor Drav ordered increased security measures, but the damage to Council authority was spreading. 3 systems on the Outer Rim declared independence. Council military units on 4 worlds refused orders to fire on civilian protesters. Meanwhile, on Earth, Professor Nam and her team worked tirelessly in a secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. A brilliant physicist who had collaborated closely with the Valoran since first contact, she led the effort to improve their propulsion technology. The Council believes faster-than-light travel has reached its theoretical limits, she explained to Admiral Choi during a progress briefing. But they think in linear terms. The Valorans had theories suggesting otherwise, but lacked the specific applications. "And you found those applications?" Admiral Choi asked. Professor Nam smiled. "We've done more than find them. We've exceeded them." She activated a holographic display showing test results. "The new drives outpace Council ships by a factor of 3. We can be anywhere in their territory before they know we're coming." Within weeks, the new drives were installed on Admiral Kang's flagship and a squadron of 10 advanced warships. Their mission was classified at the highest level. Only President Kim, Admiral Choi, and a handful of others knew their target. On the Council homeworld of Zentrix, the Supreme Chamber was in session. High Counselor Drav addressed the assembled representatives from across council space. These setbacks are temporary, he insisted. The humans and their allies lack the resources for a prolonged conflict. Our superior numbers will prevail. In the middle of his speech, alarms suddenly blared throughout the chamber. Council security forces rushed in, surrounding the leadership protectively. "What is happening?" Drav demanded. A security officer looked up from his communication device, his face pale. "Impossible. There are Earth ships directly above the capital. They've bypassed all our defensive perimeters." Outside, citizens of Zentrix looked up to see 11 Earth warships hovering in the sky, their massive hulls gleaming in the sunlight. No shots were fired. They simply waited, an undeniable demonstration that the Council capital itself lay exposed to attack. Admiral Kang's voice broadcast across all frequencies throughout the planet. "High Counselor Drav, your forces murdered 8 billion peaceful Valorans. Your fleets have been defeated. Your authority crumbles. We could destroy this world as you destroyed Valerin Prime. Instead, we offer one chance for peace. Surrender those responsible for genocide and agree to a new galactic charter recognizing the rights of all sentient beings." He paused briefly. "You have 1 hour to decide. Choose wisely." In the council chamber, Drav looked at the faces around him and saw what he feared most. Not anger or defiance, but the dawning recognition of defeat. "We could destroy your world as you destroyed Valoran Prime." Admiral Kang's transmission echoed through the council chamber. "Instead, we demand justice." Silence fell across the Great Hall. The 57 counselors looked at each other nervously. Outside, 11 Earth warships hovered above the capital city, visible through the chamber's transparent dome ceiling. High Counselor Drav's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "This is outrageous," he finally said. "The Council has governed this sector for 10,000 years. We will not surrender to primitives." Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors opened. A group of Zentrix citizens pushed past the guards and entered the sacred space where only counselors were permitted. "Our defenses have failed," said their leader, an older female Zentrix with purple skin markings of high social status. "Our military forces are in retreat across the galaxy. The time for pride is over." More citizens poured into the chamber from other entrances. Council security forces stood down, unwilling to fire on their own people. Drav looked around at the faces of his fellow counselors and saw the truth. His authority had crumbled. After a moment that seemed to stretch forever, he lowered his head. "Send our response. We accept their terms." 24 hours later, transport ships landed in the Council capital. Earth forces, joined by representatives from 7 allied species, secured key government buildings. There was no resistance. The citizens of Zentrix lined the streets, watching silently as the occupying forces moved through their city with disciplined precision. Admiral Kang met with the Council Transition Committee in the very chamber where the decision to destroy Valerin Prime had been made. Elder Ta stood beside him, his skin a mix of mourning black and hopeful blue. "We do not come as conquerors," Kang told them. "Earth has no desire to replace one empire with another. We seek justice, not vengeance." Over the following weeks, evidence was gathered from Council records. The orders for the Valoran genocide were traced to 7 specific counselors, with High Counselor Drav at their center. The evidence was undeniable. Their own communications revealed their deliberate decision to eliminate an entire species. 2 months after Earth forces arrived at Zentrix, the trial began. It was held in a massive amphitheater, with representatives from 50 species in attendance. Billions more watched the proceedings via broadcast across thousands of worlds. High Counselor Drav and 6 others sat in the center, their restraints designed to be comfortable yet secure. A panel of judges from 12 different species, including humans and surviving Valorans, presided over the proceedings. The evidence was presented methodically over 17 days. Council records showed the deliberate targeting of Valerin Prime's population centers, the rejection of surrender offers, and the calculated decision to make an example of the peaceful species. On the final day, Drav was given a chance to speak. "We acted to preserve order," he said. "The alliance between Earth and the Valorans threatened the stability of our system. History will vindicate our decision." Elder Te, whose skin had turned a calm blue, addressed the court. "My species believed that all life was sacred. Even now, after what you have done, we do not seek your deaths. We seek understanding. We seek change." The verdict came 3 days later. High Counselor Drav and the 6 others were found guilty of genocide. Their sentence was not death, as many had expected, but rather life dedicated to restoration. They would spend their remaining years working to rebuild Valoran colonies, living among the survivors of the people they had tried to eradicate. "This is justice with purpose," announced the head judge. "Not punishment for its own sake, but redemption through service." In the months that followed, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to form a new galactic governing body. The Galactic Concordat replaced the Council, with Earth and the surviving Valorans as founding members. Professor Ju, a human scientist who had lost her Valoran spouse in the massacre, addressed the assembly of former Council worlds. Her face showed the marks of deep grief, but her voice was strong and clear. "We seek not an empire but a community," she said. "Not subjects but partners. The cycle of domination ends today." The first act of the Concordat was to establish the principle that all sentient species, regardless of technological development, possessed inherent rights. No race could claim authority over another based on advancement alone. The second act created a mutual defense pact, pledging all member worlds to protect each other from aggression. Earth took a leading role in the new alliance but refused the offer of permanent leadership. Instead, a rotating council with representatives from 12 systems would govern for 5-year terms. "Power should never rest too long in one place," President Kim explained. That was the council's first mistake. Across the galaxy, formerly subjugated worlds celebrated their new freedom. Trade routes opened between species that had been kept separated by council decree. Cultural exchanges flourished. Scientific cooperation accelerated technological development for all member worlds. The Valorans, reduced to just 20,000 survivors, began the long process of rebuilding. Earth provided resources and protection as they established New Valora City on a pristine world near the galactic core. Other species contributed as well. Nithrai crystal technology for buildings, the Sovian environmental systems, Jorak's agricultural methods. 5 years after the massacre, Admiral Kang stood with Elder Sun, one of the few Valoran elders to survive, overlooking New Valora City from a hillside park. Construction drones and human workers moved in harmony below, building structures that echoed the crystalline beauty of the lost Valerin Prime, while incorporating new elements from their allies. Kang had aged during these years. His hair had turned fully gray and lines marked his face. He had retired from military service 2 years earlier, but remained an advisor to the Concordat. "It grows more beautiful each time I visit," he said, watching the city shine in the morning light. Elder Sun's skin glowed a warm, contented gold. "From tragedy, new life emerges. My people are few, but we will continue." In the distance, they could see the rehabilitation center where High Counselor Drav and the other convicted counselors worked daily. Their efforts would never bring back the billions lost, but their knowledge of council systems had proven valuable in dismantling the old order. "Your people could have taken the council's place as conquerors," Elder Sun observed. "Many species would have, yet you chose a different path." Kang watched as a group of Valoran and human children played together in a nearby field, their laughter carrying on the breeze. "That was never our intention," he replied. "We didn't fight because we wanted power. We fought because friendship demands nothing less than everything." Elder Sun's skin rippled with colors of deep emotion. "My ancestors had a saying. The universe tests all beings with tragedy. What matters is not the tragedy, but the response." Kang nodded. Earth was tested. Perhaps we passed. Perhaps we merely survived. You did more than survive, Elder Sun said. You changed the course of galactic history. As the sun rose higher, its light caught the spires of New Valoran City, sending rainbow reflections across the valley. The two leaders, Human and Valoran, stood in comfortable silence, watching the future take shape before them. On a bench nearby, partially obscured by flowering plants, sat a small memorial. Etched into crystalline material were the words, "For 8 billion voices silenced, we remember, we rebuild, we continue. The end."